The day I truly understood what betrayal felt like, I was sitting at our old mahogany dining table. Around me were college acceptance letters, Harvard, Stanford, MIT. Their prestigious logos lay scattered like autumn leaves. My hands trembled as I opened the newest one, the one from Princeton. The words blurred through my tears. Mom, Dad, I got in. I got into Princeton. My voice echoed through the tall halls of our Victorian home, a house that had seen 4 generations of Montgomery success. I expected cheers, hugs, something. My mother's heels clicked across the hardwood floor as she entered the room, her expression unreadable. My father followed. His usual confident stride was oddly hesitant. "That's wonderful, Jennifer," my mother said, but her tone lacked the excitement I had imagined my whole life. She looked at my father, who cleared his throat and loosened his tie. "Sit down, Jennifer. We need to talk." I sat, the acceptance letter still tight in my grip. Something about their serious faces made my stomach knot. "Your brother Peter," my father began, "his tech startup is showing huge promise. The prototype he's built could change renewable energy storage." He paused, adjusting his glasses. "But he needs a big investment to take it to the next level." My mother stepped closer, running her manicured fingers along the table's edge. "We've decided to invest in his company. It's a rare opportunity, one that could secure our family's future for generations." "That's great," I replied, though my voice wavered. "But what about my college fund? The one you've been saving since I was born?" The silence was heavy, crushing. "Jennifer," my father said, using my full name, always a bad sign. "We've decided to use your college fund to support Peter's company. It's what's best for the family." The room spun. "What?" "But that money was meant for me. You promised." "Don't be selfish, Jennifer," my mother snapped. "Peter's project could be worth millions. You can take out student loans like everyone else. Or maybe attend a local community college for a while." I stared at them, the people who had raised me, who had always said education was everything, who had watched me chase Ivy League dreams with full support, now throwing all of it away. For Peter. Again. Peter, the golden child. 5 years older, a college dropout, the entrepreneur chasing dream after dream, burning through one failed startup after another. Each time, they backed him. And now again. "How much?" I asked, barely louder than a whisper. "What?" my father asked, confused. "How much of my college fund did you give him?" My mother shifted uncomfortably. "All of it. The full $415,000. The number hit me like a punch. Almost $440,000, every birthday check, every saved allowance, every dollar I earned from summer jobs, all gone. Given away, without a word to me. I stood so fast my chair crashed behind me. "Did you even think to ask me?" That was my future. Jennifer Olivia Montgomery. My father's voice boomed. "That is enough. This decision is final. Peter needs this, and as a member of this family, you're expected to support what's best for everyone." Best for everyone? I laughed bitterly. Or just best for Peter. "He has vision," my mother said firmly. "He sees opportunities others don't. Sometimes that means taking risks. With my life." I shouted. Even I couldn't stop myself from raising my voice. "What about my vision? My opportunities?" My father's expression turned cold. "If you can't understand the importance of supporting your family's future, then maybe you're not as mature as we thought. Go to your room until you're ready to speak calmly." I stood there, 20 years old, being sent to my room like a child, all because I had dared to question the decision to take away my future. Something shifted in me at that moment. A quiet but powerful change. I suddenly saw everything differently. My parents, my brother, and where I truly stood in this family. Without saying another word, I turned and walked upstairs. But I didn't go to cry into my pillow like they probably expected. Instead, I reached for my biggest backpack and began packing. I moved with purpose, clothes, my laptop, the emergency credit card they gave me, but I'd never touched. Most important of all, my birth certificate, social security card, and passport. My hands worked steadily, even though emotions swirled wildly in my chest. From my sock drawer, I grabbed the $122 I had saved from tutoring. I had planned to use it to buy Princeton gear once I got there. But now it had a new purpose. As I packed, memories flooded in. I remembered Peter's first failed startup, some ridiculous social media app for pets that wasted $75,000. Then came his short-lived crypto idea, which lasted 4 months before crashing. Each failure was met with more encouragement, more money, and more praise. Meanwhile, I was told to be realistic with my goals. A doorbell rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. I glanced out my window and, sure enough, Peter's Tesla pulled into the driveway. Of course, he was here, probably to pick up his latest payout. I could hear their voices drifting up. Peter's confident laugh, my mother's doting tone, my father's deep voice filled with pride. They sounded like a perfect family. Except I wasn't part of that perfect picture. I opened my laptop and wrote 3 emails. The first went to Princeton. Dear Admissions Committee, with deep regret, I must decline your offer of admission. Due to unexpected financial hardship, I will be unable to attend Princeton University this fall. Thank you for the opportunity. Sincerely, Jennifer Montgomery. The second email was for my parents. Mom and Dad, you've made your decision. Now I'm making mine. Don't look for me.
Don't try to reach out.
I'll build my future without the family money or the Montgomery name. Jennifer. I hit send. Then, I removed the battery from my phone. Downstairs, I could hear Peter launching into another passionate pitch about his game-changing technology. In his world of wild ideas and second chances, $415,000 was just another number. Another risk. But to me, it was everything. It was the final straw. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and glanced around my room one last time. Debate trophies. Science fair medals. Honor roll certificates. All signs of a life spent trying to impress parents who would always choose my brother over me. Quietly, I climbed down the trellis outside my window, something I hadn't done since I was 15. My feet hit the grass softly. I didn't look back. In my pocket, $122. In my mind, a lifetime of stray days. And in my heart, a fire to prove they had made the biggest mistake of their lives. What I didn't know then was that 14 years later, I'd be sitting across from them in a corporate boardroom, listening to their desperate pitch for investors to save their crumbling company, never realizing that the woman they were trying to impress was the daughter they had so easily cast aside. That part of the story came later. First, I had to build something from nothing. I had to become someone completely unexpected, the kind of person no one imagined their practical daughter could ever be. With each step I took away from my childhood home, my determination grew stronger. If my parents wanted to bet everything on Peter, then fine. I'd bet everything on myself. And I didn't need their $415,000 to do it. The first night on my own tasted like cheap coffee and uncertainty. I sat in a dim 30-hour diner on the edge of Albany, my backpack tucked tightly under my feet, watching my phone battery slowly die. Before the screen went black, I saw 21 missed calls from my mom and my dad and 1 text from Peter. Don't be dramatic, Jennifer.
Come home.
I ordered another coffee, counting out the last of my cash on the chipped laminate table, $1.90. The bus ride from New Haven had cost more than I'd expected. More coffee, hun? The waitress asked. Her name tag read Sophia, with 6 gold stars glittering beneath her name. She had kind eyes. Thanks, I said, then hesitated. Are you hiring? She looked me over, clean-cut interview clothes, a fancy laptop, all the signs of a privileged kid playing away. But she didn't brush me off. Something in my eyes must have shown I was serious. Kitchen help, she said after a moment. 9 to 3. Minimum wage, plus tip share. Start tomorrow if you want. I nodded, the weight lifting off my shoulders. I'll be here. There's a motel down the street, she added, scribbling something on her order pad. Tell Gabriel that Sophia sent you. He'll give you the weekly rate. That night, I sat in a room that smelled like old smoke and lemon-scented cleaner. I opened my laptop and stared at the Princeton acceptance letter still tucked in my bag, a reminder of the future I'd left behind. But as I looked at it, a new idea took shape. All through high school, I tutored wealthy kids in math and science. Their parents paid top dollar because I delivered results. Perfect SAT scores, better GPAs, and early college acceptances. Back then, it was just side money for school. Now, I saw it as a business waiting to happen. I opened a blank document. Elite Academic Consulting, specialized tutoring and college admissions guidance founded by a Princeton-accepted scholar. I worked through the night, using my coding skills from AP Computer Science to build a simple website. By morning, I was printing sharp-looking business cards at a 30-hour shop, $68 gone from my savings. The next 8 months were relentless. From 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., I worked at the diner, learning everything from cooking to managing staff schedules. Sophia, it turned out, had owned the place for 24 years. She taught me about inventory, customers, and most importantly, how to read people. From 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., I built my tutoring business. My first client came by chance. A diner regular overheard me helping Sophia's daughter with calculus on my break. Word traveled fast through Albany's wealthy suburbs. There was a young tutor, accepted to Princeton, but chose to defer, who could explain complex ideas clearly and guaranteed results. I never used my real last name. Jennifer Montgomery became Jennifer. No one questioned it. They didn't care about where I came from, only that I could deliver. By the 3rd month, I was making enough from tutoring to quit the diner. But I still helped Sophia with her books on weekends. She became more than just a boss. She was a mentor and a friend. One Sunday, while watching me reorganize her inventory system, she smiled and said, "You're good with numbers, but you're even better with people. That's where the real money is." She was right. My clients weren't just paying for tutoring. They were paying for belief, someone to guide their kids toward the futures they dreamed of. I understood that deeply. One evening, as I reviewed a college essay for a student, his mom made a casual comment that would change everything. "If only you could clone yourself, every parent in Albany would hire you." That night, I started planning the next chapter. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't clone myself, but I could grow. I started reaching out to other high-achieving students who had gotten into top universities but had chosen to take gap years. Many were incredibly smart but struggling financially, just like I had been. I gave them a proposal. Work under the Elite Academic Consulting brand, follow my proven methods, and keep 80% of the tutoring fees. I would handle the marketing, client communication, and admin work. Within 3 months, we had a team of 11 tutors. In 8 months, we had small offices in Albany, Philadelphia, and Stanford. I made sure none of the locations were close to my family's social circle. I didn't want them to know anything, not yet. My first million came faster than I ever expected. Between tutoring profits and smart investments in tech stocks, I started to see real money. But I lived modestly. Every extra dollar went straight back into growing the business. While Peter was probably still burning through my college fund, chasing one failed startup after another, I was building something real, something that could last. But tutoring wasn't the end goal. It was just the beginning. Through my wealthy clients, I began to hear about things that had nothing to do with test scores, startups looking for funding, established companies in need of fresh ideas, innovation without direction. I listened carefully, learned quickly, and planned quietly. The turning point came during a tutoring session with Kelly, the daughter of tech giant Henry Green. As I helped her work through an advanced economics assignment, I noticed a document left open on a desk nearby. It was a prospectus for a new energy storage project by his company, Clean Tech Solutions. Kelly seemed worried. "Dad's stressed," she told me during a break. "The new project is failing, but he's in too deep to back out." Energy storage. The same space Peter claimed he would revolutionize. That night, I did a deep dive into the project. It was flawed, but I knew how to fix it. I spent 3 weeks pulling every string I had to get a meeting with Henry Green, using the network I'd built through tutoring his peers and competitors. When I finally sat across from him in his high-rise corner office, he looked amused. "My daughter speaks highly of you, Miss Dawson," he said. "But what makes you think you understand energy storage?" I didn't flinch. I opened my laptop and walked him through my plan. 5 hours later, the amusement was gone. He leaned back, serious now. I'll offer you a 20% stake if you can deliver this. I didn't blink. I want 50% and full control of the technical side. He agreed. 8 months later, GreenTech's new energy system was disrupting the entire industry. The innovation Peter had only talked about, I had actually built it, with a different name, a different company, and a completely different outcome. Overnight, my net worth exploded into the figures. But I wasn't finished. Using my success with GreenTech as leverage, I began acquiring struggling tech companies, especially in the energy field. I bought them through shell companies and silent partnerships, keeping the name Jennifer Montgomery far from anything public. My empire grew behind closed doors. I formed Dawson Enterprises, my private holding company. From the outside, it was led by a mysterious CEO who never appeared in interviews or on magazine covers. I hired elite lawyers and accountants to build a complex web of corporations and trusts, all quietly owned by me. Years passed. I moved from Albany to Philadelphia, then to Silicon Alley, always keeping my distance from the past. Through private sources, I kept tabs on my family. Peter's ventures continued to fail, each more embarrassing than the last. My parents poured more money into his dreams, draining the family's wealth little by little. The Montgomery legacy, built over generations, was fading because of blind faith in a golden boy who never delivered. Then, one morning in my Los Angeles penthouse, my assistant walked in with a folder. "Montgomery Technologies is looking for investors," she said, placing it on my desk. "They're on the verge of bankruptcy. Your father is meeting with potential buyers next week." I picked up the file, a slow smile forming. After 14 years, it had all come full circle. "Schedule a meeting," I said. "But use Dawson Enterprises letterhead. Let's see if they recognize the daughter they left behind." It was finally time to show them exactly who their practical daughter had become. The Montgomery Technologies building hadn't changed in a decade. Same over-the-top granite facade. The same gold-lettered name above the entrance. Same security guard out front. Only now, everything else was different. The security guard didn't even glance up from his crossword puzzle. But as I walked through the revolving doors in my tailored Armani suit, I was no longer the teenage girl they had dismissed without a second thought. "Miss Dawson," a young assistant approached, flustered but polite. "The board is waiting in the main conference room. May I take your coat?" I handed it to her, barely hiding a smile. My mother always said true power wore designer labels. Today, I was wearing enough to fund one of Peter's failed ventures. "Coffee," she offered. "Green tea," I replied smoothly, remembering how my mother used to tease me for choosing tea over coffee. I always insisted on a proper brew. No sugar, no shortcuts. As the elevator climbed to the top floor, I took a moment to steady myself. 14 years of silence. 14 years of building, planning, and waiting had led to this one moment. Through a carefully designed web of silent investments and shell companies, I became Montgomery Technologies' largest creditor. They didn't know it yet, but I was their last chance. The conference room doors opened, and the sight nearly made me laugh. My father, Matthew Montgomery, sat at the head of the table, though that seat wouldn't be his for much longer. My mother, Olivia, was beside him, her back straight, her face calm, except for the slight tension in her hands. Peter slouched nearby, aimlessly tapping on his phone, likely still clinging to whatever ambition hadn't already burned to ash. "Miss Dawson," my father said, shaking my hand. "Thank you for coming. We've heard impressive things about Dawson Enterprises." I met his handshake with steady pressure, noting the slight tremble in his fingers. "Good," I replied. "Let's get started." For the next hour, I listened while they explained the company's situation. They needed a $66 million cash injection to survive. The stock had dropped 80% in the last quarter. Peter's latest project, a new energy storage concept, had drained the last of their capital. With proper investment, my father said, slipping back into his practiced, persuasive voice, Montgomery Technologies can return to its former strength. I opened my laptop and projected a series of sharp, unforgiving graphs onto the wall. "Your company's decline began approximately 14 years ago," I said, watching their faces, coinciding with a series of reckless investment decisions. Peter shifted in his seat. My mother's perfectly manicured nails tapped against the glossy table. We took calculated risks, my father said firmly. Calculated? I tilted my head. Like investing exactly $415,000 in an improving energy storage idea? The room went still. That number, the amount they'd taken from my college fund, hung in the air like a slap. How did you? Peter began, then fell silent. I stood and walked to the window, overlooking the city. Tell me, Mr. Montgomery, what would you say was your biggest mistake in business? He cleared his throat. Perhaps expanding too quickly into unfamiliar markets? No, I said, turning to face them. Your biggest mistake was sitting in this room 14 years ago and thinking your daughter would just disappear. My mother's face went pale. Peter dropped his phone. My father looked like he'd been hit with a memory he didn't want to relive. Jennifer, he breathed. I smiled slowly.
Hello, Dad. Mom. Peter.
It's been a while. This is impossible. Peter stammered. You're Jennifer Dawson? Actually, I said, sliding my ID across the table. It's Jennifer Montgomery Dawson now. I had it legally changed. I sat back down, savoring the disbelief written across their faces. But why didn't you ever? My mother started, her voice tight. You didn't look for me. I cut in. You made a few calls and convinced yourselves I was being emotional. You thought I'd come back when I ran out of money. I turned my gaze to Peter. So, how did that energy project work out, by the way? The one you drained everything into. He didn't answer, but I already knew. You used my college fund? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. My father turned red, flustered. There were unexpected complications, he muttered. I didn't let him finish. Instead, I tapped on my laptop, pulling up a presentation. Funny, I said, flipping to the next slide. Because one of Dawson Enterprises' subsidiaries, Green Tech Solutions, already solved those complications. I displayed the energy storage system schematic, the one I helped design, the one that earned me my first billion. That's when his instincts finally kicked in. You own Green Tech? He asked, shocked. Among other things, I replied calmly. Names of companies began appearing on the screen. Green Tech Solutions, Elite Academic Consulting, Dawson Global Ventures, and as of last month, a sizable chunk, 50%, of Montgomery Technology's outstanding debt. The room erupted. Peter leaped from his seat, knocking over his chair. My mother covered her face. My father just stared, watching his empire unravel. Why? He whispered. Why didn't you just tell us who you were? I leaned in, locking eyes with him. Because I needed you to see me for who I truly am, not as your daughter, but as someone more capable than you ever imagined. A better business person. A success without your help.
Peter scoffed.
So what? You want revenge? I laughed genuinely. Revenge? Dear brother, if I wanted revenge, I would have bought this company 8 months ago and fired you all on the spot. I straightened my suit and faced them fully.
No.
I'm here to fix what you broke. My mother looked up, hesitant. What does that mean? It means I'm offering to save Montgomery Technologies, complete debt restructuring, a capital investment, and a tech partnership with Green Tech. I paused, letting the offer settle in the tense silence. But, I added, there are conditions. My father's face hardened. What conditions? First, I said firmly, Peter is out. No more executive roles. No more investments. No more draining the company's future. Peter opened his mouth to argue, but my father silenced him with a glance. Second, you and Mom retire. The company needs fresh leadership, not clinging to outdated strategies. And third, my mother whispered, her voice shaking. I smiled. You both admit that sending me away was the best thing you ever did, because everything I've built, I built without your name, your money, or your connections. The room fell completely still. My father stared at the screen, at the empire I had created. My mother's eyes welled with tears. Pride? Regret? I couldn't tell. Peter slumped into his seat, realizing I had done everything he never could. So, I said, calm but unyielding, do we have a deal? My father nodded slowly. We do, Miss Dawson.
Good.
I gathered my things. You'll have the paperwork by tomorrow. At the door, I turned. Oh, and Mom? Remember that community college you once suggested? My foundation funds it now. Turns out, practical choices can lead to extraordinary futures. I stepped out of the building, the one that had once symbolized everything I was denied, and into the waiting car where Sophia, my first boss and now my COO, handed me a hot cup of green tea. How'd it go? She asked. Exactly as planned, I said, taking a sip. Though I might leave the diner part out of the company bio. She laughed. You're going to save their company? After everything? I glanced back at the building. I thought of the scared girl who left home with just $122 and a dream. You know what I learned at that diner, Sophia? I said quietly. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't tearing down what hurt you. It's building something so great, they can't ignore it.
And yeah, they saw it.
When he finally realized who I really was, I saw it in his face. Shock, disbelief, and in my mother's eyes, the quiet tears of final surrender. From now on, every time they see the new company letterhead, Montgomery Dawson Technologies, they'll be reminded. You're keeping the Montgomery name? My father asked. Of course, I replied, opening my laptop to check the markets. I did promise to support the family business. I just chose to do it my way. As our car moved through the city, passing tall glass buildings and office towers that once felt like distant dreams, my thoughts drifted back to that acceptance letter from Princeton, still hanging in my office. I'd framed it next to the license for my very first business, the contract that earned me my first million, and a humble name tag from a 30-hour diner that simply read, Jennifer. That diner job? It taught me just as much as any classroom ever could. Because sometimes the best future isn't the one others plan for you. It's the one you build on your own. Dollar by dollar. Dream by dream. Step by step, and sometimes, just sometimes, $122 and a fierce belief in yourself can be worth more than any family fortune.